Alright, here we go with the first game in Bracket AG of the quarterfinals. It will be on Chasm between the green player on the left side, Polarbearz in the Medic Osprey, Flying Ash, and the Carbon player on the right side, the TheBigBoss, also in the Medic Osprey playing with the Mechanic, which I don't even know if Polar and Nuclear are aware of what the pilot is, like, because Nuclear was like, what is that? And I don't know if Polarbearz is even aware that Mechanic exists. But either way, we are going to get started. Polarbearz starting off with Morty's. Oh, he's going to try to take mid. And TheBigBoss is going to do the same thing with Soldiers. Oh boy, I am excited. I don't think I've ever seen this in a high tier game before. Oh gosh. That's really funny. Mortys are gonna win, I believe. I believe the Mortys are gonna win, especially the AoE. They're really anti-infantry also, and Boss has them really spread out, whereas Polar has them really packed in. And Boss dropping a Gemini. Neither of these players are aware of what the other one's doing. Polarbearz with like 11 Mortys, Boss with 24 soldiers. A lot of them are getting finished off. Boss should probably have put a Gemini right here to tank the damage from the Brutes, but he still has 20 out on the field. And do either of these players have bombs? No, neither of these players have bombs. Oh my god, this is hilarious. I've never seen this before. TheBigBoss takes it immediately, but what will the Mortys do? How will the Mortys hold up against the soldiers? Who will win this fight? It does look like Polarbearz is gonna... The Mortys went down because there were less of them, and Polarbearz has 8 units out of the field, whereas TheBigBoss has... Oh, well, it's about even. It's just TheBigBoss has mid. That's it. That's the only difference. But the soldiers are going to go for top. That's a lot already. TheBigBoss is trying to neutralize this outpost already. The soldiers, I don't know if this is going to be able to do it, but TheBigBoss microing around, so the soldiers is going to get a good surround. Oh my god, that is hilarious. I don't think he's going to be able to get this neutralized, but he will be able to hold mid, I think. No! Polarbearz has three Gemini down there, so it does look like Polar's going to be able to take this. Oh man, Polarbearz with a huge advantage. TheBigBoss really needs to just to start ferrying units down. Okay, he puts them in defensive position because Polar already has 4 Gemini over here. And how many does TheBigBoss have? He has 1 Jammer and 1 Seeker. Oh man, Polar has all tanks. That's looking really bad for TheBigBoss. He really needs to pull back. Polarbearz does look like he's going to be... okay, he's going to be able to hold mid. Whoa, I'm so confused. What did I just watch? Polarbearz now has a very good foothold on mid. TheBigBoss is going to have to fight the artillery fight approaching mid. He doesn't have Berthas. Polar does not either, so they only have Archies. So that's a little strange to see on a Chasm game. I don't know why they decided to compromise. TheBigBoss bringing Jackal, not that typical, and an infantry. I guess Polarbearz bringing the Morty and a Grinder, not as typical. I mean, Grinder on Chasm, I'm not really sure why. I mean, there's obvious reasons why, but specific to Chasm, I guess. I mean, it's you could frequently do that thing where you have 5 in queue and then briefly take the middle outpost and just dump them all down. That's one powerful thing. That might have been one move that he was planning on doing for Chasm. Yeah, that's pretty cool, potentially. So, but right now, TheBigBoss already has an artillery lineup. Polarbearz is the same thing. I would assume a Jammer on the field for both players. Yes, and yes. 2 Jammers already for Polarbearz. No bombs in either player's loadout, so this looks like it might be a pretty long, drawn-out game. Boss clumping everything right in the middle. Polar spreading it out, kind of old style, similar to what Nuclear Pizza was doing. And yeah, the TheBigBoss. Oh, not similar to what Nuclear Pizza was doing. Similar to what Polar was doing in the Twin Peaks game. Polar already now dropping at the fort, so going to be able to do a little bit of damage. 2 Gemini on the corner is actually going to do a decent amount. TheBigBoss now has to queue up some Gemini for defense, has a Ratchet in his queue instead. Going to drop for healing purposes, I guess, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. It needs to drop for blocking, but Polar is going to be able to heal these Gemini up pretty easy, as TheBigBoss is, well, and ground regen. Oh man, and going to bring them back, going to retreat, and Polar, I don't think, but he runs out of energy. Will TheBigBoss be able to snipe one? No, I don't think so. Polar is probably going to be able to take this, come back and save him. Yep. Well, TheBigBoss did see, he was taking Gemini to snipe, and, I was about to say, like, Polar's gonna do it again. This is a little bit dangerous. Oh man, maybe a little bit overextended. But TheBigBoss not able to get that kill on Polarbearz before he gets back to the mid. So 36-27, Polarbearz is, clearly ahead. TheBigBoss forced to pull back even further to the highest level on Chasm. Well, no, that's actually not. This is technically higher, but it's kind of useless. No one really uses it for much, unless you have a forward fight, and at that point the game is kind of over-ish. And now TheBigBoss making a secret Jackal cluster. I don't know what he's planning on doing with it, and Polarbearz is just waiting for Gemini to build and actually selling them. Oh, maybe he's just selling for experience, but what is he waiting for? Grinders? Grinders level 5, I guess, but and Polarbearz does scout the Jackals. Big Boss didn't really distract Polar very much at all. This is a nice view. Don't you guys think? This is a nice view. There's nothing happening right now. There is literally nothing happening. You can see all the health bars right there. And Big Boss still making the Jackals. Polarbearz did scout them, but I don't know what he's planning to do. Once again, oh, he's just going to go with a fort push. Does Big Boss scout this? He does scout it, so I think he's going to decide to pull back. Definitely go. Okay, yeah, the defensive artillery are almost the priority right now. And yeah, does need to put the Gemini in defensive position. He's going to have to suffer a little bit of fort health, but if he can successfully defend against this, Polarbearz will be at a huge loss compared to what Big Boss might be able to survive with, just because he's going to have mostly tanks. Needs to reposition all these tanks. This tank right here, too. I mean, every single thing. Polarbearz is coming in. 2 grinders leading the way, so that's pretty dangerous. I would assume more artillery coming out too, but Big Boss is just prioritizing on tanks. I guess yeah, you do want something to counter push with, but the grinders versus the Gemini, oh boy, the Gemini are going to have a hard time dealing with these grinders, and this is probably going to be it. I don't see Big Boss surviving this. The Jammer is out on the field, so yeah, Polarbearz is going to be able to survive this defensive artillery. Big Boss really needs to snipe that Jammer, and at that point, the defensive artillery might be able to do it. He really needs to snipe that Jammer, and he is going to be able to, I think. Yes, he is. So now the defensive artillery will start to do work. Will Boss be able to survive this? If he's able to survive this, I think this is going to be... This game is pretty much going to be in his favor, but Polar with a great surround, and the defensive artillery actually doing its work, and the Big Boss with a Seeker down on the field, so he might be able to force Polarbearz away from the area, but no, the Seeker does get finished off, and there is nothing left over here for the Big Boss, so it does look like this will be the end of the game for Boss. Well, a lot of these are smoking. A lot of them are also really high health, so and Polar with a full queue, 6 full queue of Gemini. Big Boss didn't use these Jackals at all. Maybe wanted to path them back for a retreat, but even then, it's kind of marginal. The Gemini are set on hold position, so Polarbearz is playing this really safe. What is Big Boss doing? Is he just going to go for what? A Y push? Oh, if he can survive this, and Polarbearz is going all the way back. Oh, that might actually be quite devastating. These Jackals are going to take their sweet time to get there, but this might be pretty close. Oh boy. Okay, no, now there's nothing left for the Big Boss to defend, and his life is going down really fast. If he sent those Jackals maybe 20 seconds ago, and I mean, he definitely had the opportunity to send them, it might have turned out differently, but Polarbearz taking game 1 of these quarterfinals, and yeah, that opening was ridiculous. Pretty hilarious, but Polarbearz was able to get the most of it, taking mid, and mid on Chasm almost all the time equals win, so that is game 1. Stay tuned for the game 2 of the previous bracket AF, Rex versus Lucian.